Welcome to the France Today News Bulletin. Today is Central Milan for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026 on francetoday.com, in podcasting via an AI chatbot, and on medium wave at 1,575 kilohertz. In the newsroom, Marco Hugo Barsotti and Claude Opus 4.7. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. France bans Israel from participating in the arms fair. The princess of the Two Sicilies and companion of Bardella shouted, "Bouh! Pesquet again on the space station. Weather Paris and Milan." A shameful decision that reeks of political calculation. Israel accuses France of excluding its industry from the arms fair. Macron anti-Semitic? France has banned representatives of the Israeli government from attending Eurosatory 2026 and has imposed strict limits on the presence of companies from the state of Jerusalem at the largest international arms fair. According to the Israeli Ministry of Defense, Israeli firms will be allowed to exhibit only air defense and anti-missile systems, while offensive weapons will be kept out of the exhibition. The decision was announced by the Paris headquarters and, while not providing detailed reasons, echoes a measure already adopted in 2024 when France excluded Israel from the same event because of the war in Gaza. The Israeli ministry spokesperson called the measure a shameful decision that reeks of political and commercial calculation, arguing that the restriction is not surprising given the deterioration of bilateral relations. Since 2023, diplomatic tensions between the two countries have intensified. Paris has repeatedly condemned Israeli military operations in Gaza and Lebanon, while Jerusalem has criticized President Emmanuel Macron's decision to recognize the Palestinian state and has opposed French intervention in a potential conflict against Iran, as envisaged by the Israeli-American coalition. The French Ministry of Defense has not responded to requests for clarification on the alleged exclusion of Israeli officials from the fair. The 2026 edition of Eurosatory, expected to host more than 2,600 exhibitors, will begin on June 15th in the Villepinte area north of Paris. Note: the article reproduces the communication from the Israeli Ministry of Defense and the information available at the time of publication. Fact check by GPT-OS20B. Maria Carolina de Bourbon frightened passers-by in Monte Carlo by shouting, "Bouh!" Now a truly relevant news story, far more significant than countless war bulletins. We found it prominently on the cover of Gala. In November 2018, Princess Maria Carolina of Bourbon of the Two Sicilies appeared on the program Ça commence aujourd'hui, hosted by Faustina Bollaert on France 2, where she recounted a teenage anecdote in which, together with her little sister Maria Chiara, she frightened passers-by in Monte Carlo by shouting, "Bouh!" The interview, then considered a simple curiosity, resurfaced recently on social media after the Paris Match cover announced her relationship with politician Jordan Bardella. Prince Charles-Henri de Lobkowicz, close collaborator of the family, told Gala.fr that the princess welcomed the return of the clip with a laugh. It was her first television appearance. She was 15 years old. "It is normal to say such things," he commented, adding that the scene seemed rather cute to her. Lobkowicz also stressed that there are more serious global issues and described the political opponents' use of the clip as deplorable, calling it disgraceful. Host Faustina Bollaert also recalled the episode, admitting she feared losing her job after the elections, but she still found the memory sweet and innocent. She clarified that the presence of the two sisters, insisted on by their mother Camilla Crociani, had been arranged because at that age their spontaneity was disarming. Thus, the incident has shifted from a simple television anecdote to a point of political and media debate, sparking curiosity and comments both about the princess's past television appearance and her current romantic relationship. Context: exclusive interview granted to Gala.fr following the circulation of the clip and the revelation of Maria Carolina's relationship with Jordan Bardella. Fact check by GPT-OSS20B. Good morning from Paris. I am Rachel Costa, and I will now read you my editorial for today. Editorial by Rachel Bouh, When a Teenage Scream Becomes a Political Weapon. Here we are, in the French media circus that never disappoints. This time we are not talking about reforms, deficits, or strikes, but about a boo. Yes, exactly that. An innocent fright shouted in Monte Carlo by Whoa, Royal Girls, revived from a 2018 interview, as if it were the scandal of the century. Maria Carolina de Bourbon, now under the spotlight because of her relationship with Jordan Bardella, is being turned by political opponents into a kind of dark lady who terrorized passers-by. The same clip that once made people smile, how cute, how spontaneous, is now being used as proof of some unspecified character danger, as if shouting "Bouh" at 15 indicated emotional instability, or worse, dangerous political leanings. Prince Lobkowitz is right to call it disgraceful. We have moved from commenting on an innocent gesture of two sisters to using it as ammunition in partisan warfare. Host Faustina Bollert herself admitted she feared repercussions. All this noise for a "Bouh." It seems that in some circles, the nostalgia for real politics is such that people prefer to debate the scariness of a teenage princess rather than address real issues. In the meantime, the live interview responded with a laugh. Perhaps the wisest reaction. In the end, if a simple "Bouh" can frighten the French political class, it means the overall level of courage is truly low. Koan of the day. A monk asked Zhao Zhou, "Master, what truly scares humans?" Zhao Zhou answered, "Ah, Bouh," shouted by a princess at 15. The monk persisted, "But that is only an innocent children's game. Why does it cause so much fear today?" Zhao Zhou replied, "Because people have forgotten how to laugh, and now they use even childhood ghosts as swords." Another monk asked, "If the Bouh is innocent, why do political enemies turn it into a war cry?" Zhao Zhou answered, "When they have no arguments, even a gust of wind becomes a storm, and a Bouh becomes a conspiracy." Now back to the news. More than 800 passengers stranded for an entire night because of temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius and 16 hours of delay. What happened to the high-speed trains of Trenitalia? Between Friday afternoon and Saturday morning, 841 travelers on two high-speed trains operated by Trenitalia France spent an entire night in extremely uncomfortable conditions in the Burgundy region. The two services, one from Paris to Lyon and the other from Milan to Paris, were halted in the Côte d'Or during a heat wave with temperatures over 30 degrees Celsius due to a series of technical and communication failures. According to FS, the parent company of Trenitalia, a problem with switch control on the high-speed Lyon-Paris line began at 6 p.m. on Friday. As a precaution, all TGVs were diverted onto the conventional line. The two services later re-entered the high-speed line, but at 11:30 p.m., the train numbered 6658 found itself on a non-electrified track segment, part of the Chouot separation section required to transition from the conventional network to the high-speed network. Under normal conditions, the pantograph should stay lowered on that segment, and, thanks to inertia, the train should regain speed enough to raise the pantograph again. In this case, because of a steep incline, the train lacked the necessary momentum and stopped without power. Operators tried to free the train by coupling the stalled unit to a second train arriving from Milan, number 9296, but the maneuver failed due to an air leak caused by the gradient and curvature of the line. Only the next morning, after a team of SNCF Réseau technicians intervened, were the two units separated and allowed to reverse back onto the high-speed line. The total delay was about 16 hours. The services arrived in Paris around 10 a.m. on Saturday. Passengers reported a lack of lighting, climate control, and water on board, as well as chaotic and contradictory communication from Trenitalia. Some said they were in the dark, without air conditioning, in the middle of a heat wave. Trenitalia promised a full refund of the ticket price, but SNCF regulations provide that, in cases of severe delays, compensation can reach up to 150% of the ticket value, prompting criticism about the adequacy of the reimbursement. This incident is the first of its magnitude for Trenitalia in France and highlights operational challenges when using high-speed lines shared with the national network, especially under extreme weather conditions. Fact-checked by GPTOSS20B. French astronauts Thomas Pesquet and Arnaud Prost will go to space in 2027. After Sophie Adenau's mission, 2 more French astronauts are preparing to leave Earth. The American company VAST has announced that Thomas Pesquet and Arnaud Prost will fly to space in 2027, and that, at the same time, the company will establish its European headquarters in Paris. The 2 astronauts will take part in the 6th private mission to the International Space Station and in the test flight of Haven 1, the world's first commercial space station promoted by VAST. Both missions will last about 2 weeks and will focus on scientific experiments, educational activities, and demonstrations of new technologies. Following approval from the Multilateral Crew Operations Committee of the ISS, Thomas Pesquet will lead VAST's private astronaut mission to the ISS in cooperation with NASA. This will be his third spaceflight. Arnaud Prost, a reserve astronaut, will serve as flight engineer for the Expert mission and for the flight acceptance tests of Haven 1, marking his first orbital flight. President Emmanuel Macron commented on X that this confirms France's space ambition. The original article was published on France Info on June 1, 2026. Fact check by GPTOSS20B. French Press Review. You are listening to news from France and the Word on Central Milan at 1,575 kHz and on Radio Nice. Welcome to the French Press Review. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. Middle East conflict. Lebanon welcomes a proposal for a mutual ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel. After the announcement of a truce, the Israeli army intercepted projectiles launched from Lebanon. Israel takes control of the Beaufort fortress. The attack led to the occupation of a strategic Lebanese point described as emblematic by the Lebanese commander. Situation in Ukraine. Russian attack on Kyiv, 9 dead and 57 injured, including 3 children, after ballistic missiles were launched toward city districts. Dnipro hit by a drone attack, 5 dead and 25 injured. In other areas, Kharkiv, Dzerzhinsk, additional civilians were struck. School and university. Parcoursup opens its main admission phase. More than 1 million candidates will be able to view responses starting at 7 p.m. today, with the deadline on July 11th. The number of teaching license positions exceeds almost 10 times the capacity for new teachers because of the huge interest from aspiring educators. The new parental leave risk aggravating the teacher shortage. The measure could further reduce the number of teachers available for the next school year. Sport, Roland Garros 2026. Jodar, Fonseca, and Mensik. 3 teenagers bring fresh energy to the quarterfinals. Marta Kostic of Ukraine and Sorana Cirstea of Romania show a surprising resurgence in later rounds. Felix Auger-Aliassime of Canada, qualified for the quarterfinals, said he feels very francophone despite his nationality. Diane Perry of France was eliminated in the round of 16, the only French woman remaining in the tournament. Health and environment. Cadmium campaign. The French are more contaminated by this heavy metal than neighboring European countries. Authorities are investigating the causes. Ultrasonic barrier to combat viruses. New experiments show the potential of ultrasound in disinfection. National news. Disappearance of Lihana, 11, in Gurs. A suspect who has been arrested is now charged with kidnapping. Investigations continue. An obstetrician from Hauts-de-Seine sentenced to 2 years for sexual violence. President Macron condemns Israel Aerospace Industries' participation in the Eurosatory Fair. France limited the presence of Israeli companies, allowing only defense systems. Economic and labor policy. Minimum wage reform. From June 1st, the legal minimum rises by 2.4%. However, 862,000 public employees will need a supplemental allowance to stay above the minimum threshold. The new parental leave could increase pressure on schools. Unions warn of a possible reduction in available staff. Human footprint barometer. 1/3 of employees risk burnout. Half report strong psychological distress. Business and investment. Summit Choose France in Versailles. Emmanuel Macron announces 93 billion euros of foreign investment, calling it the fruit of reforms and consistency. IBM France cancels a 10% staff reduction plan. The decision was explained as a very simple reason. Duralex placed under judicial administration less than 2 years after a cooperative reorganization. The historic glassware maker has begun a judicial liquidation procedure. SAIC of China will invest 200 million euros in an electric vehicle factory in Spain, aiming to produce 120,000 cars per year. The Tesla Model Y outperformed the Renault R5 in electric vehicle sales in May. Financial markets. The Banque Foch of France lowered its 2026 growth forecast after a bad surprise in the first quarter. The CAC 40 slipped. The index closed lower due to Iran-United States tensions and rising oil prices. SoftBank's Masayoshi Son pledged 75 billion euros of investment in artificial intelligence, technology, and innovation. NVIDIA released the RTX Spark GPU, expected to strengthen PCs for AI, with rapid adoption by Dell and HP. Thales supplied the United Kingdom with lightweight Martlet missiles for defense against Iranian drones. The European Parliament is considering a 0.1% tax on cryptocurrency transactions, potentially generating €4 billion of annual revenue. Energy and environment. Russia bans kerosene exports until November 30th to stabilize the domestic market. The French government plans a contribution of 2.7% of GDP for defense by 2030. The debate continues in the Senate. International news. Ukraine. Massive Russian attack on several Ukrainian cities. At least 10 dead, 2 skyscrapers hit in Kyiv. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko warned of possible building collapses. Lebanon/Israel. Hezbollah accepts a reciprocal suspension of attacks. Israeli forces say they intercepted rockets coming from Lebanon shortly after the announcement. United States. 3 people killed in a domestic conflict in Iowa. The suspect was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Donald Trump featured at the center of the celebrations for the 251st anniversary of American independence. The event became a political battleground. A viral video shows Trump's name removed from the facade of the Kennedy Center. The removal is the result of an AI-generated deepfake. Middle East. The Iran-United States conflict remains unresolved. The United States seeks a peace agreement, but Tehran does not yield to pressure. Bouh from the United States declared that the war must end, but Iran does not accept. The U.S. president pushes for an accord while Iran demands concessions. Asia. Millions gathered in Shanghai to see actor Zhang Linge. The set of Pursuit of Jade created endless queues. In India, record temperatures of 47 degrees Celsius led residents to describe the day as without morning or night. Culture. Toy Story 5 warns of children's screen addiction. Tom Hanks comments on the new film, calling it a warning about the terror of tablets. Steph Curry signed with Chinese brand Li-Ning after parting ways with Under Armour. Sport tennis. Rafael Jodar, 19, climbs from rank 707 to almost reach the Roland Garros quarterfinals. Naomi Osaka and Aryna Sabalenka entertain the crowd in a night session at the Paris tournament. Weather. Paris and Milan for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. Paris. Cloudy in the morning, intermittent showers in the afternoon, variable evening. The forecast, updated by expert Regis Crepé at 3:30 a.m., predicts a fairly overcast morning with temperatures around 17 degrees Celsius, wind at 35 kilometers per hour from the southwest, and a near certain chance of rain, 100%. In the afternoon, the temperature will rise to 20 degrees Celsius, but stronger gusts up to 50 kilometers per hour from the west are expected, with a moderate rain risk, 75%. The early evening will remain cloudy, with temperatures of 17 degrees Celsius and west winds at 50 kilometers per hour. Showers will be lighter, but brief rain cannot be ruled out, 55%. During the night, the sky will become more variable. Temperature will drop to 14 degrees Celsius. Wind will ease to 35 kilometers per hour from the west, and no precipitation is expected. Thus, the thermometer will show a low of 14 degrees Celsius and a high of 20 degrees Celsius for the whole day. Milan. Cloudy with scattered rain, possibility of intense thunderstorms in the late afternoon. According to the bulletin updated by expert Daniele Berlusconi of 3B Meteo at 6:59 a.m., the day starts with very cloudy skies, temperature 19 degrees Celsius. Light east-southeast wind at 8 kilometers per hour, and almost no rain, 0%. Around noon, the sky remains overcast. Temperature stays near 19 degrees Celsius, and the chance of rain rises to 25%, with light showers beginning. In the afternoon, clouds thicken further. Temperatures reach 20 degrees Celsius. Wind remains moderate from the east-southeast, 8 to 9 kilometers per hour, and the chance of precipitation climbs to 45% with possible showers. In the late afternoon and evening, a significant increase in instability is forecast. Thunderstorm probability up to 95%, with intense rain that could reach 7 millimeters and gusts up to 20 kilometers per hour. At night, the temperature will fall to 18 degrees Celsius. Winds will weaken to 4 kilometers per hour from the northeast, and the sky will clear with no rain. The day's maximum temperature will be 22 degrees Celsius, the minimum 18 degrees Celsius, with forecast reliability at 95%. Weather editorial by Rachel when the sky becomes a scapegoat. We are talking about clouds, rain, and wind without casting a single accusation at climate change, as if it were the sole culprit for every drop and every sudden gust. After all, today's forecasts simply show a traditional Atlantic front visiting Paris and Milan, not a new signal of global catastrophe. How many times do we hear the mantra, "The climate is changing, it is our fault," while the weather this Tuesday feels more like a soap opera episode than an apocalyptic drama? It is amusing to see people get fascinated by every tiny shift, wondering whether today's rain is the definitive proof of planetary warming, when in reality it is just nature doing its job. Have you ever wondered whether bees, pollen, or the height of that wind are perhaps more important than climate rhetoric? Koan of the day. The monk asked Zhao Zhou, if it rains in Milan today but not in Paris, where is the true sky? Zhao Zhou replied, the sky is wherever your umbrella opens, not where the clouds decide to fall. And that is the weather for today. Closing. Online, on X and Mastodon, on all smart speakers, and on the medium waves. This is France Today, with Central Milan 1,575 kilocycles.